That's for English for speakers of other languages. It's really just, it pretty much means the same thing. English is a second language. People don't like it because a lot of students will speak more than 2 languages, and so this could be their 3rd language or their 4th language. But basically, the way that we use it here in the school, the ESL students are people who have been here. They could have been here for a week or a month or their entire lives. If they speak English and they speak another language, as far as the district is concerned, if they're not proficient in English, and we'll get to that in a minute, then they're considered ESL. LEP is limited English proficient. All ESL students are considered to be LEP. Okay. Monitored students are the students who are no longer considered LEP, limited English proficient. They are limited in their abilities to speak and understand English. And that's basically who your ESL kids are. They're LEPs. The monitored students are the students who are basically your ex-ESL students. Okay, they were once ESL and they have passed the criteria or met the criteria to be exited from the program, but we still monitor them for 2 years after they exit ESL services. Okay, so we still, when you get those things from Eric and I asking about why these kids are failing and things like that, because we have to track them. We have to keep track of them for 2 years. We have to make sure that they're in all of the tutoring things and the Saturday schools and all that stuff, because they may still need that extra bit of help because they're used to having the ESL services. Does that make sense? Okay. I did a quick little progression of the language development because I've gotten some questions about it. These are sweet little newcomers. Oops. Basically, they say things like, no hablo inglés, ayúdame por favor, because they don't speak English. When they do attempt to speak English, it's no speak English. Bathroom, restroom, or whatever, because they don't really speak the language. We're lucky this year we only have 5. Out of those 5, 3 of them really don't speak English, and the other 2 speak some English. Those 5 students are the only 5 students in the school that don't count towards our, what's it called? Where we get in trouble if they don't pass or whatever? AYP. These are the only 5 that don't count. Okay. Everybody else takes the STAR test and needs to pass them. So. Then we have our year 1 through 3. I stopped at year 3 just because we used to not test years 1 through 3 unless they met certain criteria, but now we test everybody. But the year 1 through 3 students speak a little English. They might be like, Mies, how do I do this? I know, understand. So they may not have the exact proper grammar, but they can communicate. Most likely you're gonna hear, hey, did you do your homework? Can I see it? Because they're copying their homework from other people and then they're bombing their tests. That's a sure indicator of a kid who doesn't get it, who doesn't understand. It's not always a language thing though, because you see regular kids doing that too. So the year 4 and beyond. Dale, you like my picture there?
Yes.
Is that better?
That is better.
I had something less appropriate before, but I had to call her last night and like, is this okay? She's like, no. Basically no. Anyway, these kids can carry on a conversation. I even took the sentence out. But anyway, they can carry on a conversation with their friends in English, but they struggle with the academic language and concepts. These kids are so hard to help sometimes because they think they know English. They think they understand, and they don't. I can tell you that the vast majority of our ESL students are at this level, year 4 and beyond. They've been here most of their lives, if not all of their lives. They're still considered ESL because they can't get past that hump of, most of them, it's writing. Okay, they can pass that language arts or the reading STAR, but they get to the writing and it's like, whoa. You language arts teachers are like, yes. That's just a major problem for them. But if they do actually get to the point where they become these monitored students, they're generally assimilated into the mainstream classes, and that's not to say that they're not still struggling with language. They still may not quite get everything that a native speaker gets. And that's kind of why we track them for those 2 years, to make sure that they're in the right place.
I had a reverse happen the other day. One of my Spanish-speaking kids, I was asking them how to say something in Spanish, and because I'm so horrible at it, I said, will you write it so I can look at it? And he was like, I can't write Spanish.
Yes, and that's the case with a lot of the students. It kind of cracks me up as an ESL teacher. They will write little notes to each other in Spanish, and I'm like, God, you can't even spell in Spanish, and that's phonetic. But yeah, a lot of them don't speak, or they speak their native tongue, but they don't read and write it. And that yes, I was about to say, go ahead.
Can I just make a comment about all of these kind of students? The majority of them, especially from Spanish-speaking countries, school is not something that is obligatory. It's something that parents have to pay for. So even if they are 13 years old and they're sitting in our classroom with eighth graders, they may have only had up to a second or third grade education in their target language.
Yes.
So that's something that we have to remember when they get to us, because they don't even know how to spell in their own language, and we expect them to learn how to spell in our language. And I see that so much.
Yeah, and that's another thing I was saying to the math teachers this morning, is that we have a lot of kids who come in who can't multiply and divide. And it's a real problem when they get into a math class and they're dealing with word problems. And how am I going to get them to understand that they need to multiply when they don't know how to multiply? And so that's a lot of, I'm not here with too many solutions, but I can tell you a lot of the problems we have. So that's basically who these kids are. And I was going to start off by just talking about seating charts. I know it's common sense, we all have them, right? I have an example of one that I just did by hand, where I just put little stickers next to my ESL kids and my SPED kids, get the stars or whatever, but just kind of giving you some different strategies that are quick and easy to identify these kids in the classroom, because a lot of times you don't know this kid's monitored, you don't know their ESL, unless you look at that long list that I sent out, or Nora actually sent it out yesterday or the day before. But you need to know who these kids are. And so I found this app online, and I've just been kind of playing with it a little bit. But this is my 6th period class. And over here, when you add a student into it, you can do these custom fields. And you can, so I did one for 504 ESL monitor and SPED, and then I just checked yes or no if they are. And then when you go to the classes that they're in, you can create, let's say you want to do like a group project or something and put the kids into groups. This awesome app will, you can do optimized seating, and you can say like, okay, I want my ESL students dispersed, but I want my monitored kids together, or however you want to do it. And you click shuffle, it'll actually move the students in the classroom to where they're sitting together or apart, however you want it done. So I thought that was kind of cool, just as a little aid in the classroom. It's not too much work to add the kids in, you can do it all at once. It also keeps track of awards. Oops. You can award points for like good behavior and take points away for bad behavior or whatever, and it keeps track of that for you, like on a daily or weekly basis. And you can, like random pupils, you can just, it has the little randomized thing and it'll pull up the kid, you know, there you go, Laura, I'm gonna ask you a question now. So it's kind of a cool app that helps with that sort of thing. Do y'all have any questions about this?
Are the little symbols right below the green number denote?
This, yes.
Okay.
Sorry, so over here it says ESL, monitor, SPED, and 504. Those are the 4 categories that I have. And so it's next to the student's face over here, which one they are. So it kind of tells you.
It doesn't scream, hey, I'm ESL, so I have a green.
Right, and you can actually hide it if you want to. I think it's right here. No. There's somewhere, and like I said, I've just been kind of playing with it, but you can hide, I don't know, you can hide those things too. The other thing that I was going to talk to you guys about is the academic language. And so did you guys bring your stuff? Your, I feel like such a teacher right now. If I can pull this up. Where did my mouse go?
I have a list of words.
There it is.
Are you referring to the stuff that you sent us?
No, your academic vocabulary, sorry, stuff. It's so specific. Another thing, and I know this is probably more of a reminder for most of you, but just having like pictures with your vocabulary words and things like that to help the students visualize what these things mean, because I have my newcomers coming to me first period. A lot of times my reading class turns into a study hall because they're coming to me with their math and their social studies and going, I don't get it, like I need help. And for me personally, I would rather they get that stuff done and not fail the class than, well, learn the language. I'm teaching the language as I'm helping them with their homework. But a lot of the words that I see on there are things like, let me look at my list. Typical was one. There, Miss, what is typical? Well, that's average. Well, what's average? Like in math? No, that's like normal, average, typical. Then they're like, oh, okay. So giving them a lot of words that mean the same thing so that they can kind of connect those through the classes too, because another one is like determined. You know, this person was so determined, you know, blah, blah, blah. What does that mean? Well, they don't give up. Whereas determine in math means figure out. You know, so things like that to kind of help them understand the difference in our language. We have a lot of words that are, you know, multiple meaning words and things like that. So what I do when I'm teaching reading for them is I just create the simplest definition I can. If I can do a one-word definition, I do a one-word definition. And then I do a picture that'll help them. Usually it's a picture from the story or something, but just something to show them what it means so they can have this visual. And I know not all words are going to have pictures, but something that they can hold on to, that they can grasp that concept.
Or
Yes.
even having, adding their home language on there too, like, you know, or in cognates in Spanish.
Yes.
Obviously, there's a lot of cognates. Even just giving them time to do that.
Yes, that's the other thing I was going to say is like doing a simple chart like this or something, keeping it around the room, or like a Google Doc or something that they can keep going back to and adding to it. Especially my newcomers, they have these little essential dictionaries that they just like every day they're just adding words and definitions and pictures and all kinds of stuff, and it's like worn by the end of the year because they use it so much, you know.
I'm gonna jump in here because what I had envisioned for this is everybody's got the Google Drives, everybody's got Chromebooks. This is something that you can make or begin building this year. You've got it for next year. You don't have to start at ground zero again next year. A lot of these kids, I'm sure you've already talked about it, but just in case, I'll reiterate. These kids who, you hear them in the hallways, they speak English just fine. You think they had never in a million years do they not know English. You are talking about conversational, communicative language versus academic language, and something as simple as the word determined, like the example that she gave. Huh? I mean, there is this big discord between, you know, daily language and in the classroom. And sometimes it can be completely different. The example I gave this morning, I'll share with y'all. You want to know the difference between academic language and conversational language? Come to my Monday night class. I am in a doctoral level statistics class. My professor speaks perfect English. I have been there all term. I don't know one thing he said so far. I have learned nothing. It's a different language in some cases. And for some of these kids who can hold on a conversation, yo, what up, man? Hey, I need you to pluralize the following. What?
Mm-hmm.
You lost them right there. Everything after that is gone. So if you know that there are some words that you're going to use over and over and over again, and you take for granted that these kids know it, put it on this doc, share it with them. and add a picture and add a couple of, synonyms. You can throw an antonym in there if you want to. Add some pictures if you can come up, find something online and save it. Keep it in your drive, because next year, the next group of kids is going to have the same questions. They're going to have the same concerns. You're that much more ahead. You can say, oh, by the way, I'm sharing this with you because. And I bet you, monitored LEP kids, sure, they're going to benefit from it. Send it out to some of your native English speakers. Watch some of them go, oh, that's good. They might use it, they might not use it as much. But it's just another tool that you can employ. And that's kind of, the big deal is that you might never know some of these kids, especially the monitored kids, you might never know they struggle. But, you give them an alter. What does that mean? Change. Oh, okay. Yeah, now I get it. Alter, and have to, and they lose it from that point on. It's tough because they don't know how to express to you what they don't know.
And that's the other thing, when you're looking at these kids, they're usually quiet. Not always, but usually, like the ones who really don't speak the language are very quiet in the classroom. Not necessarily out of the classroom, but when you're asking for volunteers and help or whatever, they're not the ones that are going to do that.
Where you get this?
So, yeah, one of the quick things that I do with my classes, because I forget sometimes too, so I just say, raise your hand if you understand. And when they raise their hand, then I'll ask someone who raised their hand, to reiterate what I said and kind of put it in their own words. That way these other kids can kind of hear it from somebody else's vocabulary. You know what I mean? Like, that kind of helps them sometimes.
Now, if they're completely lost on the problem, like especially with some of the math kids, is it okay if I just translate it to them in Spanish? Is it?
Absolutely.
I don't know. Like,
yeah, I mean, the goal is to get them speaking in English, because nobody's going to translate on the test for them unless they're those 5 kids,
Unless
right?
The 5 out of the 126 kids that we have, only 5 of them are not going to count for our scores, and there also happen to be the same 5 who are taking the STAR L, which is the translated version. Beyond that, every last one of them, they're taking the English level, on level, everything about it, And I'm sure you already mentioned it, but it might be their 2nd year or their 3rd year in U.S. schools, but really that's not reflective of actuality, because if I come in on May 30th and I'm in the U.S. schools for 1 day, that's a year. What did you learn in 1 day of English instruction? Bathroom. Great, moving on. You got a year under your belt. Some of these kids, it's misleading when you think that the state simply has now said, oh, they were in for this number of years, they should be all right. No, they're not always all right.
Yeah, we've had several cases of students who have come late in the year, and I know that am I allowed to say that they tell them not to come and enroll? Because if there's only like a week left in school or even a month left, sometimes they're like, this is really going to hurt you more than it's going to help you. Some of the parents insist on enrolling them anyway, so and it does hurt them ultimately, because then they're testing the next year.
And here's the tricky one. When the parents come in to enroll their kid and that home language survey says, what is the language you speak at home? And they want to, in their mind, they're giving their kid the best advantage by saying English. Because they don't want their kid labeled or, having some negative connotation, because they're thinking, oh, they might treat my kid differently. Now this kid's coming to us, and by all accounts and records, they're native English speakers. They're not. So when you see the kid, what's your name? Or they just don't ever say anything at all.
In that case, ESL doesn't even know they exist. So it would be a good idea, I think, to talk to me or to Jennifer, if you see a student and you don't think they speak English and you don't see their name on a list, then...
Did you mention the spreadsheet?
Which one? Got like 15.
Some of you remember getting a spreadsheet from me a while back.
Oh, yeah.
That said, why are their grades low?
Yeah.
Pick one of 3 in the comments. Did you talk about that?
No, not yet. I haven't gotten there.
Well, I sent out a spreadsheet, and I wanted to know, ESL kids and monitored kids, why do these kids have low and failing grades? Is it because they're not turning in homework? Is it because low English mastery? Is it because low test grades, quiz grades? you know, pick one of the three, but then give me your comments. Now here's where it got really interesting. A lot of times it was not turning in homework. Sometimes it was slowing the skills, sometimes the other. But if you read the comments, comments are the same regardless of the category. Not turning in homework, comment, doesn't seem to grasp what I'm saying half the time. Doesn't seem to grasp the concepts. Low test grades, comment, doesn't seem to grasp what I'm saying all the time. Doesn't seem to understand what's going on in the classroom. Seems lost. I mean, the comments are they're more beneficial than just that category, which is eventually why I started to look at those, and that's when I saw, whatever the reason, these kids are struggling in the same area. So you're going to get some more spreadsheets we'll show you here in just a second. And
Yeah, actually,
we really need you to comment so we can help these kids, we can follow up with them.
we can go ahead and go to that. I was going to give you guys time in this training to go through your academic vocabulary and just try to find some simple definitions for those words if you haven't done that already. And then the other thing was just giving you guys time to go through the spreadsheets, and we have 120 some odd ESL LEP and monitored students. Over half of them are failing in both categories. So and I'm counting the names, not the number of classes that they're failing. So I counted, you can actually see at the bottom, I counted the number of students and just put the number at the bottom. That's kind of for my own purposes, but each 6 weeks the numbers have been pretty much the same. We've got 32 or 33 first 6 weeks. I think they're 32 second 6 weeks. And it's about the same for monitored. So if you guys can just take some time, and like Eric said, I appreciate the comments way more than the low quiz grades or whatever, and just fill those out and let us know what it is. I mean, some of these students, I'm looking at a couple of names right now, I'm like, okay. But there are a lot of kids on here that are good kids who I think try hard, at least in my class, and they're still really struggling in their other classes. And so it would be good to know what exactly is going on with them, because they may act differently or do things differently in other classes. I think that's it. Do you have anything, Eric?
No, I just wanted to make sure that you guys know what we need from you and then why we're doing this. And like I said, make that Google Doc now. Make it as pretty as you want, make it as basic as you want, but save it. And when you share it out with your kids, you know, you'll have it again for next year. And you'll go, as the year goes on, you'll realize, oh, this is a word I've used quite a bit. Include that. You can find a picture for it, great. You can find a little animation for it, great.
And you were talking about the words, no confusion, some definition. That's almost a group that's automatically created for you for differentiated instruction. If they're going to work on the concept on the higher level with other kids, they can sit there and just get down vocabulary and use the vocabulary in a sentence. It doesn't have to just be to get time in the class.
Yeah, and the other thing too is not just words that you use in class, but look at the homework that you're giving them, because when I look at some of the homework they come in with, and I'm like, I don't know if you guys are giving them these definitions too or not, but they don't know what they mean.
Well,
so.
And don't forget, like, when you have first through third or even fourth year students, how you can get rid of some of the questions, and they're not called modifications, but the accommodations and stuff that you guys can do for them. Because I don't know what kids are failing, but if you have those kids who are limited, what I saw a lot at North, you forget that these kids don't grasp it, no matter what, even the basic stuff. So what I would do if you took Spanish or whatever, read the Spanish language something real quick. And that reminds you, okay, I don't get this at all. So you got to remember what these kids are reading, because they're reading that in English. Does that make sense? So that's just something I see a lot with us. We forget what they don't understand, and we expect too much.
I'm going to leave you with, oh, did I put it on here? Hold on.
Sorry, I got that video so much.
This is a video we watched at one of my trainings, and this will just kind of give you an idea of how these guys feel. I thought it was kind of cool to watch it, just so you can see what it's like. I didn't get to do it this morning because I couldn't find it.
Okay. This is a lot better. It's going to be a lot better. Go Indy. Good job.
Is it gonna work?
See, it's so confusing even computers.
Right. Well, it's funny because I'm kind of a language dork, and so as I'm watching it, I'm just like trying to figure out what language it is, not even trying to figure out what he's saying. And then other people were like, "Oh, he's talking about blah blah blah," and I'm like, "Huh? Oh, I didn't hear the words. I just wanted to know the language." But anyway, it's 4:15, so y'all can go.
You want to stick around for the left
Yeah.
video?
It doesn't matter. They're not-
It doesn't matter. I can send it out too if you want.
They're not gonna pass. What you wanna do is try to put the base
Why does it show it up there but not there?
I don't know. It did it this morning too.
Hey guys, one last thing about when it comes to STAR, sorry, she brought this up, not me. But what they're looking at now, if you have the kids who are like, they can't get the concept, you say they're second years and they're taking the test, not newcomers, but like third years or whatever. They are looking at the progress now, they started it last year, instead of just looking at the grades, you're looking at how these kids progress. So just focus on trying to get the vocabulary and stuff in there. Sorry.
They're looking for growth, not necessarily